We're going to talk about connecting Iberia to the digital future cloud, edge, AI-driven networks, and whatever is needed to bridge actually the Iberia Peninsula, again, if I may say it so, to the rest. Because I think, the demand is there. And I'm sure that, we have people from Nokia. So they can tell us what we need to take into account. And not only in our only little bubble wholesale industry, the financial industry, the gaming industry. And I'm sure that you'll have something to say about this demand which we see. So without further ado, I'll give everybody a quick minute to introduce himself. Sam, please, for the people who do not know you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having Telcables as an official sponsor. Very interesting to this invitation for us, and thank you for having me here and Artur yesterday. I'm Samuel Carvalho. I believe some of you already know me. I'm the CMO of Angola Cables. Still have that role, meaning I work on product strategy and also all the definition for support sales. And almost a year from now, I'm developing the European market with the subsidiary of Angola Cables, Telcables Europe, and yes, that's what I am.
Thank you, Sam. Good having you, Christian.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody, or good midday, actually. Thanks for the invitation. My name is Christian Schmidt. I'm working for Call Technology. Started with City of London Telecommunications some 30 years ago, and is now, I would say, one of the largest pan-European fiber provider in Europe with a global reach. So we are really reaching 40 countries worldwide. Have a presence in South Africa, for example, in Asia. We are serving more than 50 metros. Just in Portugal, it's over 900 retail buildings, 16 data centers, which I would define as non-residential buildings, which are connected to our network. And basically, my responsibility is a network investment, network expansion in Southern Europe. So that is Spain, Portugal, Italy, and the African footprint.
Good. Thank you for being here. Hey.
First of all, thank you for prioritizing digital infrastructure over lunch. Hopefully you made the right choice. My name is Victor. I head up the global new market development team at Digital Realty, so focusing on helping expand the company into the right strategic markets. Globally, we run more than 320 data centers in more than 55 metro areas on 6 continents. Specifically on the Iberian Peninsula, we've been operational with 4 data centers in Madrid since 2001, I think. We are 2 weeks away from launching our first 14 megawatt data center in Barcelona. And a few weeks ago, we also announced our market entry into Lisbon with the acquisition of an existing facility, as well as plans for a second brand new data center.
Okay, good. Thank you for having. Ricardo?
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Ricardo Pinto. I work for Nokia. I'm based here in Portugal. I'm currently serving as customer CTO. So in the past years, I've been doing mostly business development on emerging technologies, especially in this area of data center and AI. And this is a panel sponsored by Portugal DC, which means that most or even all of us, we belong to the technical committee focused on connectivity. And the idea, at least from Nokia point of view, is to contribute with best practices, recommendations, blueprints on interconnection scenarios. And this is something that, of course, we will be doing as part of the Portugal DC technical committee going forward. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Okay, thank you, Ricardo. And last but not least, Fernando.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Fernando. I work for Start Campus. We are developing a 1.2 gigawatts data center in Sines, just 90 kilometers away from here. And my role is head of connectivity, so I try to make sure that all our customers are connected as best as they can be.
Okay, thank you. Good. Let's move right in there. Sam, we're talking about connecting Iberia to the digital future. So from your point of view, what's needed to build the resilience connectivity here with Spain, Iberia, but also the rest?
Well, I believe the point in the previous panel is valid. We are seeing a surge of data centers, but also we are in the need of having pretty much not just power, but connectivity in terms of connecting those data centers, not just for the current purpose of those data centers usage, but for the future proof of those data centers. Because data centers who are coming here to Portugal, they soon become hybrid on-premise solutions to be kind of edges for the one solution that is performed in the big AI factory, which is in Sines. So if you think that every 96 kilometers, and this is words for you to come here to get some numbers, and every 96 kilometers adds 1 millisecond to inference, it's important for us to have more edge data centers, more connected routes. And the pressure for these new data centers will not come just for the power, will come for the needs. I heard yesterday in an event where I have with
You were in London.
Brian Hill from Digital Realty, that the new data center will, and the new AI edge data center, they call it hybrid on-premise, operated by neoclouds and others, and not just enterprise. They will put a pressure on the network of 37 times the needs they have today. So meaning this is huge, and thinking on Iberia, the projects in Aragon means that we need pretty much more connectivity, like Emmanuel was saying before, in terms of connecting the north and western and everything.
If I can just add on those, because the previous session, I don't want to be repetitive, but it took some of the topics of that one also, which I definitely do support. And let me just take Rui Franco's comment on the refrigerator, which is kind of expensive without connectivity. It is still a situation we do observe in the market that the importance of interconnectivity between data center is still underestimated in terms of timings, in terms of needed investment, and in terms of scale. Because if we also getting back on your point, and also the previous session, the definition of data centers and the shape of the market demand, we don't only look at fiber, let's say wave capacity and the 100 gigs. We have RFPs on the market where customer clusters, consortiums, and customer groups are really asking of completely new builds of full infrastructure and duct systems, right? And that has a direct impact on the importance and the value of connectivity between data centers. And I think that is definitely key, and it just has not to be underestimated.
Okay, Victor?
Not going in order on purpose, but I think we should recognize that there is evolution that's happening around the Iberian Peninsula. I think a lot of people refer to Iberia still as the edge of Europe. I think nowadays we see that transition into one of Europe's
It's
most
the entrance.
digital hubs. Yes, we're probably closer to the beginning of that evolution. And of course, the three pieces needed are, of course, terrestrial, subsea, and data centers. On the subsea, I also like numbers. So just in Portugal today, we have 16 subsea cables that connect Portugal to, I think it was 46 different countries. We're probably going to get between 6 and 10 in the next few years. So the number is probably going to go into probably 55, 60 different countries. And on the data center piece, of course, I'll let our other colleagues comment on the terrestrial piece, but on the data center piece, globally, AI inference is probably going to require more power in the next few years. Most of the training is going to happen in the US, I believe, in the foreseeable future. But on the inference bit, Portugal, for example, is in a very nice position to attract some of those big deployments in the Start campus, for example.
Okay, Fernando?
Well, I also like numbers, like the rest of the panel. What I've been reading is that for AI, we're talking about, well, depending on the load, but 2 to 10 terabits per megawatt of GPUs installed. So if we extrapolate that number to the amount of power that is being installed, I think we can easily get to the conclusion that there's still a lot of work to do in terms of connectivity. Now, the subsea part is very interesting, and we know about those cables that are coming or that plan to come. But there's two aspects here. First, we need to improve the mesh that connects us to Spain. And second, hyperscalers, when they choose a location for a data center, they're not choosing a country, they're choosing where power, latency, and scale can all be present together. And for that sense, I think Iberia is in a very good place. There's a huge opportunity, but we cannot forget the competition from the Nordics, and we must make sure that we expedite this development. Otherwise, we can run short.
Okay, thank you. Ricardo, from a vendor point of view, digital future for Iberia and let's say the connection to the rest, where do you see the majority of the challenges?
So first of all, for the ones that might not be so familiar with Nokia these days, so actually Nokia's history is, I think, is a testament to its ability to change and to innovate and to adapt. And just for you to know, a small historic note, we started as a paper mill along the banks of the river in Finland. Of course, we had the mobile phone business, probably from where we know Nokia.
Who had the Nokia? Who had a Nokia?
My first phone, by the way.
Who had multiple Nokias?
The famous 3310.
The brick. I even had the banana, that was so cool. You click and came down.
We have a slide showing the 3310 and we say from unbreakable phone to unbreakable data center networks. It's a kind of a marketing sentence. But jokes apart, so indeed, we are living the AI super cycle. And of course, as AI workloads will increase, the need for high performance, secure connectivity, of course, will play an important role, both in terms of interconnection, but also inside the data center. So we do see those opportunities for Nokia, and Nokia, of course, position itself as a supplier for that critical infrastructure for data centers. From an Iberian point of view, I think, with the risk of repetition, I think we have all the conditions. So we have the submarine cables, we have energy availability, by the way, at a reasonable, cheap cost. So we have a fantastic terrestrial connectivity as well. So I think the other pillar of this convergence is data centers. But on that note, and we have seen the previous panel, there is a huge pipeline of data centers coming into the country for both Portugal and Spain. There are some good news. Microsoft has chosen Start Campus for a facility, by the way, through Nscale. Nscale is a neo-cloud provider, GPU as a service provider that with whom we are partnering a lot across Europe. So we do see, of course, this challenge in the sense that the connectivity in the networking cannot be the bottleneck for the scaling of cloud and AI. But at the same time, the technology exists, and of course, this is an opportunity. So another example that it was already mentioned in terms of the trends in Europe. I think Europe is slowly waking up in all this geopolitical situation. The European Commission understands that there is a huge gap in terms of AI competitiveness across the continent. They are trying to catch up. There is this AI Gigafactory initiative promoted by EuroHPC. First of all, to understand that we need sovereign infrastructure across the continent, and there is was publicly announced a joint application between Portugal and Spain at Iberian level to try to capture that factory to Iberia. And of course, this is not only to serve European customers, but the idea is that this infrastructure will also be European sovereign. And of course, Nokia, as a trusted EU vendor, of course, we are very actively supporting this project. And of course, we hope that everything goes well.
Okay, thank you. Christian, talking about the data sovereignty, the low latency, and the rise of Iberia as a digital gateway. What are the key elements actually when we focus on Lisbon and Madrid as growing data centers and interconnection hubs?
I mean, first of all, I'm not an expert in sovereignty itself, so my word is really expanding on network. But basically, what I can report from my perspective as an observer is really just the fact that, you know, especially in the Iberian Peninsula, or based on the discussion we had yesterday, I think it's two countries. It is Spain and it's Portugal. It's two cultures and it's one region. We see in the fact that there is also a factor related to sovereignty, which drives non-European investors to build in Europe, right? So then that's a plus for Portugal, you know, in general frames described. So from a cold perspective, you know, this is starting. It's being observed. I've heard that, you know, that there was I think an Omnia report recently put out that you know, in Europe it's really a very fragmented situation. I think there are worldwide over 100 initiatives. If you compare that to Asia, which is much more strict, you know, you have the kind of certain politically governed countries like I think it was Indonesia, Vietnam, Russia, China, who are much more, let's say, advanced in that perspective. I think in Europe, there's, due to the high level of fragmentation within countries and within the union, still a lot to be done. So to be looked at, but it's definitely a key focus for us. And I think our role as if I go back to infrastructure, fiber provider, I mean, we are going to play a key role in keeping data local, in complying with regulations, in helping regulators, you know, within Omnibus and others to clear up some confusions, and that's definitely a key focus for us. Yeah.
Okay, Sam.
So I think the evolution needs to be made in terms of the companies itself. We are being in touch of that kind of evolution. We are evolving from a infrastructure submarine company to a tech co. And that's why we entered soon in the cloud sphere. We operate the clouds in Brazil, we operate the clouds in Africa, we operate the cloud in Europe, you operate the federated edge of clouds. It means the idea of connecting clouds, and you must understand one thing. Today, even without the pressure of AI, the cloud on ramps, as we said, the access to clouds, to public clouds, represents a shift of growth of 40%. And there are companies with network as a service already making money, real money out of it. And then the other point that I'd like to stress here is that as long as the governments are taking the helm of the sovereignty of the data and the localization of the data, the remote AI will no longer exist. And this is being displayed in many places, not just because of the scarcity of power in the US, or just because the recent states that do not want to have more data centers and do not have that more offensive to the grid or to the power. No, it's not just that. They are moving to Europe to big AI factories, but they are becoming the idea, or coming with the idea of hybrid on-premise. And the hybrid on-premise comes to the idea of small LLM starts to being made for the governments of locally, and because the new stacks of GPUs can be sometimes performed by companies that need to use the GPUs. For example, Mel in Portugal can start to perform their business around AI. Automation of processes, automations of many aspects of their network using their own GPU. They might not have the interest, they have the money to do it, to buy GPUs, but they can have the GPUs from N-Scale, for example. And this will create a new need, because every shops of Mel will need connectivity to run those infra and those needs. So they could start LLMs, but they will need the inference to come upon with it. So this is kind of an ideal. The sovereignty comes for the data to become here, very important, and the proper AI solution will become federated. will become interconnected in the various other spaces of Europe, and the states will be sovereign, will have their sovereignty regulated. Europe will be regulating the sovereignty. I'm not the expert also, but I will see that these AI hubs will be connected with each other. And the one operators who will have the better certifications in terms of securing data and are used to operate with these certifications are the ones who will be better prepared for the future.
Okay, Fernando, what's your take?
I'm also no expert on data sovereignty, but I would like to extend the definition of sovereignty, because in my view, sovereignty is not just where the data is located, but who accesses it, who manages it, and who can, in somehow, shape or form, get access to it. Today, we don't have a sovereign. We cannot say that we have sovereignty on our data in EU. We depend on American technology, and for most of the intrinsic parts of AI, we depend from AI knowledge and AI IP. Now that needs to change, and we need to have our own resources, and we need to be able to manage the full end-to-end life of the cloud.
But we sold in Europe, we sold everything years ago to the US, right?
Right now, according to the latest figures I saw, in Europe, there's less than 10% of the cloud capacity. The majority is in the US, so we are totally dependent from the US. And also going back to your numbers about the 30% increase in cloud adoption, I've also seen a year-on-year uptake of 40% that is expected for cloud services. And let's not forget that the power delivery will not grow that fast. So we might be coping with the connectivity, we might be coping with the facilities for data centers, but if there's no power, there's nothing running.
Yeah, well, we just heard that power is no problem here, right? Right? It's not a problem. Victor,
I need to comment on the power bit.
please do.
At least today, when it comes to renewables, the Iberian Peninsula is ahead of the average European country.
By far.
I think the average within either Europe or EU, don't quote me on that, is around 50%. I think Spain is around 60 today, and Portugal is around 65. And the targets that I've seen that are set from the government from the governments are to be around 80, 85 by 2030. So the renewable sources here, what I think we should be focusing today is the future expansion of the power capacity and those, for example, power purchasing agreements that data centers can provide. So once the power comes online, then the data center is going to consume that power. And we've seen similar situations in Frankfurt and the rest of the flap markets over the last 10, 15 years. If you don't plan 10, 15 years ahead, then you're going to find yourself in a very restricted situation.
No, absolutely. And building a data center, just as we said in a previous panel, you don't do this for 2 years. That's a 30, 40 years experience, right?
Can I try that on that one? Because there's really a lot of similarities to the interconnectivity word. That is the planning phase, right? So you have different niches, you have different levels. We spoke about wholesale, so thank you for that comment. I think that is really, really key partnerships. But also there, you have to be fair between the low-hanging stuff, between the short business, between the let's say capacity and wave services and the long-term planning, and the difference is really years or even decades if you think to future. Let me build a bridge to next generations on technology. Quantum is coming, and this will also have a big impact on our role actually as an interconnectivity provider in terms of how does it fly, how does it move, etc., etc. And this is really long-term planning. And what I'm trying to say is, there's also kind of need for a mindset shift in terms of how we approach things, how we approach investments, and how we further improve collaboration between operators.
Okay. Yeah, funny that you mentioned. I mean, we talk about AI, and funny that you mentioned, or not so funny actually, the quantum tech. which is coming, and we really have no clue what's coming to us. And so then, you'll have an issue with power. It will come to you, even if it's 65%, 80%, whatever, instant, but I hope it will be enough.
I think quantum
Are you
actually
ready?
quantum doesn't consume that much power actually. So it's much more efficient from a power consumption perspective.
Let's wait.
Let's see how it scales.
Let's wait because everything around it and everything connected to it, that will eat it.
Yeah.
And it will, and you need to be prepared for that.
And it will have an impact on the customer demand, because quantum drives quantum security needs. It drives threats on the market, and that will definitely have an impact on our innovation and on our product shape. Yeah.
Mhm. And how can you help with them with that? How can you visualize, let's say, the road and to give clear guidance? Because you understand it.
Well, first of all, we were discussing about sovereignty and low latency and so on. So I believe that today, most part of the AI is still on the training phase, and that's why we hear a lot of these AI gigafactories, large case facilities, pretty much centralized and so on, because training is still a very important part of the overall AI cycle. But going forward, we understand that the weight of inferencing will increase. And when we look into inferencing, then the low latency increases its relevance. So indeed, we will be moving into more distributed architectures. You mentioned federated approach, because of course, then when you have distributed architectures, you need to consider about federated approach. Federated approach will focus on two things: interconnectivity and orchestration. And this is something that, of course, Nokia as a vendor, of course, is looking pretty much in detail. There are already in Iberia, because we are always a little bit looking into Iberia, but some good signs. For example, recently you have probably seen Telefonica as started the program. They will build 17 new edge data centers. Actually, Nokia is part of, because we will provide AI ready networking solutions, okay, for these edge data centers inside the data center in terms of connectivity. But this is a sign that the world, the network operators and so on, they are moving into this distributed architecture, federated approach going forward. So yes, we do have the challenge of the low latency, the challenge of the sovereignty. I completely agree that sovereignty, it links a lot on who owns the data and where it is located and who controls the data. Infrastructure is only an enabler. Even when we speak about data center infrastructure and all this initiative from the European Commission, the idea is that this will be a catalyst also to create more and more European, national, regional and national champions in the upper layers of AI in terms of LLM and so on. And this is the idea. This will cross, for example, with national AI agendas that the different countries have, including Portugal. So the idea then is also to serve very specific segments in different countries that are the kind of the early or the heavy users of AI. For example, in Portugal, we are speaking about the defense industry, the healthcare, the pharmaceuticals, the industrial manufacturing, that we still have automotive, I'd say a healthy automotive sector. So we do see some sectors in the country that will be probably the initial off-takers of this AI infrastructure. And this is something that we need to look to. So in terms of innovations and technology, so I will not do a sales pitch, but just for you to understand the trends in terms of industry. So recently at OFC, optical fiber communication, so Nokia has announced a lot of things. We are seeing a little bit the shift to optical connectivity, actually. And this also relates with the quantum safe networking. But we announced different things. So we do see, the rise of, coherent pluggables, not only for terrestrial and subsea, but for example, we have launched a 3.2 tera coherent pluggable solution, for example, for more short distance applications in campus, in enterprise, but also even in inter-data center scale out applications. Optical connectivity will play an important role there. And even at the amplifier side, of course, is maybe a little bit too technical to announce a multi-rail inline amplifier. We know that the network operators, in order to
Again, a what?
and a multi-rail inline amplifier, it means that to explain a little bit, so network operators know, in order to increase capacity when multiple fiber pairs are available, of course, they try to leverage in amplifier sites. But of course, then there is some space constraints. So of course, the industry is evolving into having these more high density amplifiers, putting a lot of fiber pairs in a single rack. And this is a trend that, of course, will be important as the traffic, AI and non-AI related, is really increasing. So a lot of technology advances. This is a very R&D intensive sector, of course. But of course, Nokia, as one of the main vendors, and by the way, strengthened by the recent Infinera acquisition, it's of course, we do believe that the technology will be there to serve the market demands.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on, guys. Quickly, want to do a round on smart networks and smart industries, and especially the demands. Christian, addressing the future market demands. Do we understand them, and how can we address them?
Okay, just one sentence touching base on the challenges, which is also have an impact on future and innovation. So this is the challenges we do face as all the other operators. Emmanuel mentioned the delocalization of data centers because of power. This will have an impact on what our role is, because we kind of will follow, and that is definitely going to be one of the key topics over the next time, combined with what I mentioned with scale, right? When we started with just optical services, it is now about fibers, fiber pairs, ducts, subducts, etc. So this is definitely having direct impact. Looking into the future, I mean, especially if we look at the niches like gaming, like financial services, flexibility is definitely going to be key. And this is not a sales speech, but having a flexible network that allows an customer, whoever the customer is, to scale up and down his connectivity needs in terms of capacity and commercial models within minutes, is definitely going to be key. And this is something that has already been being implemented in our portfolio, and it's being further developed. So I think it's just anything that is overlaying pure infrastructure services is going to be the big differentiator. Also, in a vision of what is being developed in Europe at the moment. You have a lot of non-European hyperscalers building their own networks. We support them building them, but we also will create a new competitor, right? So there will be a phase where we're going to have to diversify, and I think this is exactly what's going to be done. It's flexibility on networks.
Okay, Sam.
Well, I think
where do you see the demands? Do we understand them? Where are they coming from? And
we understand the demand, and we need to have inside, and I'm telling with looking at our own house, I would say, we need to look inside where the demand comes, and we need to have the tools inside to run the intelligence on our network with AI. That's how we could understand better the evolution of prices, evolution on demand, even who are the customers. I don't want to commit and commercialize my network. So this will happen very soon, and we are operating it already. Okay, inside the Angola Cables and Tel Cables subsidiaries. So also we are seeing, and I totally back and echo what my colleague here is saying. We're seeing a lot of the development in terms of the fintechs, and the fintechs will create these needs. A lot of development need in terms of security. Yes, these smart networks comes with a lot of security, and AI creates a challenge of security. Now more than ever, the idea of spending $1 in connectivity and spending $3 on security makes totally sense. We must know that these whole AI agents that our kids are consuming, even ourselves or even inside our companies, they are opening our networks to everywhere. And very soon we're going to see our accounts paying something in Hong Kong or whatever place, because an AI agent is on live and was orchestrated by other malicious AI agents. So this is not just DDoS. So the smart networks come with needs, comes with low latency. Just imagine if we have a problem of latency using a self-drive auto, like we see, for example, in San Francisco. If it has a problem of latency, probably we crash or probably stops in the middle of the highway. It's crazy. Or even a little bit further, if it not this new war that we are seeing is totally based on latency because of the drones.
Actually,
And security in the States will be using this a lot. So yes, smart is good. Smart needs to be secure. We need to take a smart vision for our networks, even a smart vision for business, to see if the deployment of our networks, the use of Nokia and the use of everything will pay as the business, the future business. We'll have business attached, and that's the kind of problems that me and these gentlemen have to return on the investment on our shareholders. They want to see business inside.
absolutely. Fernando?
Well, I think Sam just touched the very sensitive topic on the developments of AI. I was reading last week that it was last week that the Linux Foundation, they decided to ban the AI generated code being inserted into the Linux kernel. And that's just by itself, I think it means a lot to us, because that reveals the dangers that comes from a lot of the automated stuff that we see today. Now that's a real danger, and Sam put it very, very well. On running networks, smart networks, I think most of the operators will do it now in one way, shape, or form. In my past, I was managing a network where more than 99% of the events were handled automatically by AI agents. I think there's no risk at that, or there's limited risk at that stage, as long as it is controlled by humans. But nothing can replace humans on oversight.
True that. True that. Okay. Do you see, I mean, Fernando was talking about, the demand is there. Do you see it? Do you feel it? Do you experience it? And do you think that we understand it, the demand?
Well, smart industries is a large concept, right? We at Nokia, at least we are used to look into also mission critical enterprises, because some of the customers that we have and that these network operators have are, I would say, more business critical. But mission critical is when failure is not an option. If the network goes down, people might die. This is mission critical. We are speaking about sectors like transportation, energy, even in public sector. And actually, you mentioned also banking, financial services, and insurance. This is quite important because, first of all, they are the ones that they are also heavy users of AI for fraud detection and so on, for transactional things that they do. But at the same time, they are also a very specific sector, because we live in the AI era, but we also live in the quantum computing era. And we know that from a security point of view, this will pose a lot of challenges. We don't know when this, what they call cryptographical relevant quantum computer will appear, but when it will appear, the traditional technical, I'd say, encryption techniques that we use today, it will be jeopardized. And these segments, they are very sensitive, first of all, because they are highly regulated, first of all. And by the way, in the last panel, someone discussed about the excessive regulation. There are even specific regulations, for example, for financial entities. DORA Act is an example. But at the same time, these are the segments that are also very a common target for cybersecurity attacks, especially because they own or they use for operational purposes sensitive data. So that's why they are a common target for cybersecurity attacks. So that's why an area of development is exactly quantum safe networking. Of course, we are starting to see some use cases, mostly, for example, data center interconnect. This is an early example. But we do see that quantum safe networking, even without having that quantum computer that might break the encryption, there is a current risk that is the industry called harvest now, decrypt later. So it is possible that someone is collecting data today so that in the future can break the information. And this is and it can be a problem for sensitive data, confidential data, that it's still relevant, for example, in 2-3 years from now. So just to close, I think that in this combination of AI and quantum computing era, there are a lot of challenges that, of course, we as an industry need to tackle. And Nokia, of course, as a trusted EU vendor specialized in connectivity, we are here, of course, also to bring some cybersecurity solutions to the table.
Okay, I think we could move on every little detail we could discuss for at least another hour, right? At least. Anyway, I hope we gave you a quick helicopter view over how we can bridge it, and especially connecting and making sure that we can connect Iberia, for a digital future. I would like to give my panelists a quick last word as a takeaway for you guys, because I know it's lunchtime, so I'm speeding up. I know we're getting there. So Sam, can you start? What's your takeaway for the audience?
So Iberia, let me use the Iberia word because now makes more sense than ever, and I believe sometimes we are not so linked as Iberia with Spain as it should. So I believe we need more cooperation with the players, with the actors. Just for us in Portugal, not be just the door to Europe or the edge of Spain, just for us to cooperate indeed in terms of what is needed to develop all the regions of Spain, which is bigger than us, we know by far, but in order for us also to contribute with these digital highways, these connectivity highways that are needed. So in a sense, I think we need to organize better, and it's a challenge for Portugal data centers and the Observatory of Infrastructures, Portugal and Spain, to join forces and align a bit, because this will create more value for us.
I will call Sanchez, no problem. Christian.
Yeah, my takeaway is definitely, getting back to the initial point, there is no value to a non-connected data center. So it's all about connectivity. The question is scale, and it's really being prepared for future. We spoke about opportunity and threat as the same thing, the same source basically. So we have to be prepared for that, and we have to further enhance and develop our cooperations and collaborations in order to cope with the increasing demand.
Okay, thank you, Victor.
I would say data centers and cables are cool, but digital hubs happen because of the communities, right? And communities always require resilience. If you remember, 2 or 3 years ago, we had a very big outage on the west coast of Africa. Yep. And I was at this event actually that I think it was the MD of Equinix in Lisbon talked about how reactive they had to be in terms of installing lots of cross-connect. Exactly. Which is great. But when the east coast of Africa outage in the Red Sea happened, I think 4 or 5 months after that event, we didn't see any increase in cross-connect installations in Marseille, for example. And if you look at what's happening in Madrid now, we have more than 500 ASNs. They connect to, I think like 60 or 70% of them connect to at least 2 diverse IX points. We need that sort of diversity in Lisbon, and we need that sort of diversity in Barcelona as well.
Work to do. That's what you're saying, right? Good point. Fernando, what's your takeaway for the audience?
One thing that we didn't discuss, and I'll leave it as not as a takeaway, but also for future thought, is that we've been talking about Iberia, connecting Iberia, but we also need to think about Portugal. And most of the cables we've talked about, they land in Portugal, but the traffic goes to Spain. So if you want the data center business to foster here and to grow what we've been discussing, we need to start thinking how we're going to open those cables, and if not all, at least part of that traffic be terminated in Portugal. Not serving just as a transit point.
Okay, more cloud, edge.
More cloud, edge, AI, inference, training.
So the answers are there. You just need to do it. Last famous words.
Well, so 2 notes. So first of all, as members of the Portugal DC Association, I also see the role of this association to bring all the community and all the stakeholders together in a more collaborative way. This will be very important. Second, I think we have already extensively mentioned that Iberia, Portugal has some exceptional conditions, okay, to move forward. But I also think that this window of opportunity will not last forever because, of course, there is a lot of competition across Europe. So the window of opportunity is now, and we need to act. So that's it.
Okay, and with those words, guys, lunch. Thank you so much.